Hello, I am a student studying my PhD in Christery, and I think that I've come across some rather startling realizations. I think you will be disturbed.
A better you starts today.
Yeah, I mean, again, because like the whole slop thing, which, as I've said before, I think it's so hypocritical of me to do these videos, but I was like, slop sucks, but whatever, you click on it, you pigs. So you eat good. I'll feed you, you goddamn little snout troughs. Listen here, piggies. I was starting to get a brisk of this Chris Chan character, and there was something that I think people have sort of commented on before, but I don't think that they've really noticed the significance of that. And I think that the reason that they haven't is because I am just so much more intelligent and bright than everybody else that has ever looked into this. Especially on this one subject. Just universally a genius, but also a genius on this thing that I've watched like one documentary on. These people that have devoted their entire lives. Isn't it incredible that there is like a Chrisonomy? There are people that seem to just have like, Chris, scandal update. Chris does nothing today. Nonetheless, he did exist. Stay tuned tomorrow. More updates at 11. Which I assume is Chris's favourite number, because it's quite an autistic one. It's just like, 1-1. It's the same thing over and over again. I like it. So, look, what I was noticing with Chris is, because I'm going through the formative years at the moment, so we will be unpacking this together, and we will be having a developmental dialogue where you won't be making fun of the fact that I clearly don't know what I'm talking about. You'll be sitting there, and you'll be helping me heal in knowledge. It doesn't make sense, that sentence. Nonetheless, we will continue on because there's a lot of things that don't make sense about Chris, so it's quite themed. And one of those things is Chris Chan seems to have, all throughout his life, a rather amusing little trait known as just copying things outright with no originality whatsoever involved in it. Ooh, no one's ever done that before. A little thing called copyright infringement. Look, I'm probably guilty of it as well. The point is, everybody is guilty of it. Yeah? And I think that generally, in terms of your own life, you should be moving away from it. Because the thing is, what we all notice and we all make fun of with Chris Chan is the fact that he's just got all these characters that are like, it's Pikachu, but he's Sonic the Hedgehog. That's original, right? I mean, yeah, I guess no one combined it those ways. Look at it. Yes, technically, shut up, Chris. The point is you're a little copycat. Yeah? And I think that that is more indicative of somebody's mind. If somebody is endlessly copying, which, let's be honest, we are not that far away from birds, most of us, unless you're truly evolved, which is why that you should sign up to this channel, because it is just a self-help channel. And if you don't sign up to it, then good luck devolving. Good luck devolving into Chris Chan. Those are your options. Those are your options in life. Either you become a millionaire or you become Chris Chan. That's it. That's all that happens. If you subscribe, millionaire. If you don't subscribe, well, I think we all know where that goes. You'll be making the same bloody Squirtle picture over and over again and being like, it's Tordismon, right? That seems to be his trait. His shtick is just making things that are not that original. And it did make me think that, yes, generally, that is what human beings do. I mean, what is culture, really? At the end of the day, culture is everybody just in their own environment looking to everybody else and being like, oh, I gotta dress like that too. I gotta wear a do-rag. I am jealous of not wearing a do-rag, but, so, bad example. There's other things that I'm not jealous of, such as Chinese feet binding. I'm pretty happy that I missed that trend. But that is what happens. The average human being looks into their environment and copies what they see, and they don't see anything wrong with that. Well, I've got to say, there's a couple of things that are wrong with it. One is, you won't have a beautiful mind like Chris Chan has. Isn't this ironic that we are just using that as an example of like, this is not a beautiful mind, but that is the most autistic man I've ever seen. Like, Russell Crowe could not play a man that autistic. It'd be too challenging. Anyway, those are my thoughts on that particular subject. We'll move back to originality. He just doesn't seem to be capable of doing it. I mean, in a way, his life is a piece of art. That's fine. But if you really want to succeed in life, as we all know, a general pattern that you should be following is originality. Now, how do you make something that is original? That is a good question. Look, combining two ideas, ironically like Chris Chan was doing there, yeah? Like, combining two ideas in a new and novel way is sort of the definition of a creative move, yeah? But the thing is that there always has to be like a 10% difference on what it is. It's not just like, done, you know? There has to be a little bit of thought into it, which, let's just put this into perspective as well. Usually coming up with something that is wildly original really is only 10% different from something that already exists. A lot of the time, human beings are always standing on someone else's shoulders. So, no shame. It doesn't always have to be just like some far-out, new-flung idea. In fact, usually when something is far-out and new-flung, it's not that original. I mean, sorry, it is original, it's not that useful. And the whole point of making original things, especially if you're trying to make a living out of something, is to make something that is actually useful, that is attainable to somebody, that they need. That's always going to help. I think a really good example of this is basically everything that's ever on Daddle's Direct. Like, you know, like, the copper hose, it's a hose. It's just like, now, with more heavy-duty shit in it. Okay. But the thing is that, yeah, like, the hose already existed. Firefighting hoses already existed. What if we combined the two and made it so it's a garden hose with more accessible, pliant maneuvering? There's like a few things going on there, but they've combined all of them together to make something that has made the guy from Home Improvement famous again. And not the main guy, the sidekick. Anyway, when it comes to Chris Chan, doing that, I think, is indicative of someone's mind that is that, which is that if you aren't trying to push for coming up with original ideas, you're really not going to progress far in life, are you? The more that your brain is capable of thinking outside the box, the better you will do. 1-to-1. Always. Because you will be able to look at situations in a novel way when everybody else is just being like, how do I copy it and move on? Which inevitably, you're really behind the 8 ball as soon as you start copying something, because it's like, you're not going to do it as good as the person that was already doing it. That's just off the table. Not going to happen. It already exists. So at best, you can be a cheap comparison copy. Like, I don't know, like LA Ice Cola to the original, which we all know is Pepsi. That's right, I'm calling it. It was invented before Coca-Cola proved me wrong. Please don't prove me wrong by Wikipediaing that. Anyway, that's what I think is the major play here, yeah? Which is that if you have an unoriginal mind, you start going down pathways like Chris Chan, because I think that a lot of his life comes from the fact that he is frustrated that nobody is attracted to him. And why aren't they attracted to him? Like, why do you think women are attracted to artists and musicians and the creative types? Why are they usually attracted to them? I think that a big element of it is that normally, if you're talking about an artist as opposed to like a hipster or a poser or somebody that just likes like the arty aesthetic, if you're thinking of somebody that is truly able to think originally, they're unique. Unique equals rare. Not only are you going to be able to monetarily profit if you train your brain to think more originally than it already does, but on top of this, you're going to be more attractive. You're going to be more valuable. You're going to be more in demand. It's because when you speak, purely by virtue of the fact that you have trained your brain to think originally, people will be captivated. There is a level of charisma that comes with that. Charisma comes from character. Again, this is the whole thing. It's like Chris Chan's life is his art is not. But what I'm saying is, it benefits you greatly to do this. And obviously throughout your entire life, you are going to be stripping away things that you copy. Something that people always talk about, look, it's just because I read in comedy and stuff, right? So like when I'm reading about comedians, they always say that the first 10 years of their career, they're just copying other comedians that they like. Guilty as charged. You're trying to move away from it though. And what happens when you really, really hone in on a skill, when you really devote yourself to mastery in that skill, when you are writing, and I just know this from doing shows, yeah? When I am writing, there is something in my head that thinks, that's hack. Can't do that. But that comes from years and years and years of practice where you don't even realize how unoriginal you are. A lot of originality just comes from you realizing that's hacky. That's been done before. But that takes great discipline. That takes a lot of devotion in the field. I can give you some really quick tips though. because this is all self-help is, I'm going to give you a surprising shortcut to originality. Look, as Chris Chan is doing right there, this is a great principle, and I want you to write this down right now. Copy the principle, not the person. Copy the principle, not the person. What's Chris Chan doing? Chris Chan is just copying things that already exist and going like, done. And that's cool as long as you're trying to get to a deeper level. Like, it's actually, okay, for instance, Da Vinci used to spend years of his life drawing the same pigeon claw over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it might not have been Da Vinci, but it was one of those 4 that had turned into Ninja Turtles. I can't remember which one. But he did it over and over and over again so that he could figure out the different angles of it, so that he could get really perfected at drawing something perfectly. It's like that Japanese guy that did the waves. Remember that really? You know how there's just one painting of his that's just, you look at it and you endlessly draw it? It's because he was drawing the same painting over and over again. You can become original by doing that, if that is indeed your goal, right? Like, if your goal is to make the most perfect version of that, you could learn a lot along the way. That's all well and good. Generally, however, I will say this. Crap comedians that are always looking for a cheap way out, they are always just looking for a joke that already exists, and then they're always, I don't know, just slightly tweaking it, like your Amy Schumers of the world, yeah? That is very hacky, and it's just the thing, like, everyone knows is the cardinal no-no. You don't copy someone else's jokes. You don't need to if you understand the principles. If you understand how joke work works, do you need to go to that? No. Usually, in everything, and I've got 3 principles that I figured out from years and years and years of doing comedy that I'm not going to share here. I might share it on the upload. I mean, sorry, not the upload. I'm thinking about the wrong Patreon here. My Jordan Shanks official Patreon. I might put it behind that wall. Who knows? There's a bunch of incredible tips there that took me years and years and years to learn, that you can learn for the price of a Coke, and it'll save you 20 years of your life. And just remember, my little special autistic field, like Chris Chan's was with Pokemon, was just going and reading a bunch of self-help so you don't have to. And it's been synthesizing in my mind in a unique and original way that can only appeal to some certain very esteemed human beings. And if you don't sign up to this, because you just have to understand, there is not a better investment than yourself. There isn't. There's just nothing. It's like index funds, going to university, I suppose it's a form of self-improvement. Nonetheless, working on yourself, there is always going to be incredible dividends from that you cannot imagine now. Every day that you move towards the mastery of self-help, the better your life becomes instantly. Even just the day of like, I am going to improve myself, and having someone yell at you and saying, today is a day that you are going to improve, that you are going to become better than what you were before. That is going to help you out immensely in life, immensely, because every single day that you work in that specific way, it's the principle of Kaizen, that you just improve yourself a little bit more every day the trajectory goes up. So make sure that you sign up to Jordan Shanks, links below, 3 extra videos a week. I don't know, I'd like, you know, it's on one of the levels, it's like less than a cup of coffee. And then like in the next one, it's like the price of a cup of coffee. And it'll get you way further in life than that. Especially when you have like 3 of them a day. Just cut back on 1. Stop being greedy piggies. Sorry, we will go back to this though. When you understand the principle of whatever you are endeavoring upon in life, right? So like, with comedy, there is certain techniques or there's certain like ways of looking at things that is just going to naturally resolve in a bunch of jokes that you can put in. Here's what I do every single year now. Every single year when I'm writing my show, it goes through that same frame. Those same 3 things that I've distilled from reading about the subject for like 10 years. There's 3 things that only I know. I'm not telling you. That's my own money-making advantage. But I'm saying that these exist for everything. There is always going to be 3 major principles in every single field. In fact, actually, the truth of the matter is there's about 12. But of that, always, yeah, every single time. 20% of the results come from, 80% of the results come from 20% of the outcome. There is always going to be 3 principles in that are extremely important. And this is why it's so important for you to read in your field, because you aren't looking to copy someone else. Like if you look at something else and you're just like, that's where I want to be in life, that's great, that's awesome, that's a good guiding post. You copy the actions of them, absolutely fine, right? But in terms of making your own mark, you are going to have to understand the principles that made them what they are. And that's why it's so important for you to read in your field, to have at least a PhD. I'm talking about 50 books in that field you will naturally uncover these principles. In fact, if anybody doesn't want to be that cheap, you can write down some principles in your exact specific field. In fact, we did this in the Patreon once, but it'll be really cool to know. If you are studying something, just so everybody has like a bank of knowledge, just put it in there. Look, I'll give you one that's really good. When it comes to politics, for instance, I think that most people just don't understand that political parties represent constituencies of the public. Yeah? Like, most people just sit there and they're like, if you've got the really dumb ideas of just like, oh, they're all the same, they're all shit, like, you've got that. And that's just always somebody that just doesn't know what they're talking about, right? And if you just study it for 10 years, you finally get to the point. Okay, Labour Party, what does it represent? It represents workers. So everything that it ever does is always going to be through the prism of what is in workers' interests. Yeah? The Liberal Party, what does it represent? It represents small businesses and big businesses. So everything that it ever does is going to be through the lens of business. Greens, what do they represent? Excesses of modernity that exist because we live in this miracle wonder world, and so there's just this absolute glut of consumers that are in the middle class that aren't talented enough to be business owners, and they are just annoying shitheads. It's exactly the same with One Nation. This is all minor parties. So they represent constituencies that don't really want or need anything. They're just whiny complaint addicts that need their specific cultural view fed to them. That's what they represent. When you understand how principles work, you can very quickly look at any country and understand, okay, that is what that political party is moving towards. That is that's the frame that they are looking through. And the thing is, this used to be common knowledge maybe at the turn of the 20th century, but it has been forgotten over the years. That's one example of what I'm talking about. A principle is something that gets you to the root of what works very, very quickly. That's what we're looking for here. And I think that this is one of the most important self-help messages that there is. Principle over person. That's what you're looking for. You are looking for the root causes. Whatever you are looking for in life, if you understand the 3 principles in that field that make it tick, you can cut out years and years and years of work. Like, even if somebody doesn't give you them, if you are just reading in that field and just thinking, like, what are the underpinning principles in this field? You will go ahead extremely quickly. Anyway, if you like that, make sure that you sign up to my Patreon, and I'm doing seminars in Sydney soon, so make sure that you get your tickets for that.